Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Yes, it is. And welcome to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn back together again. And Ken, it is all about the numbers this week.
We're back for more, and it's all about the numbers.
You know, you promised me I wouldn't have to do math when we talked about doing this show together, but here we are.
We're going to keep it simple,
You're
Jen.
going to keep it simple,
Yes.
stupid. That's what my teacher always used to
We're
say
going
to
to go
me.
nice and slow. We're going to keep it simple so that a second grader could understand what's going on.
I need that, and I love it. And speaking of numbers, we've got something exciting to tell you about. Now, all throughout the program, you will hear us give out the number for Midas Gold Group. If you have questions about adding gold and precious metals to your investment portfolio, you're going to call them, 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. Now, here's where the new part comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of numbers,
Dun, dun,
if you're
dun.
more of a texting kind of gal or a texting kind of guy, all you have to do is text GOLD. Ken laughs because I spell it GOLD. Text GOLD to 232425. How easy is that? Text GOLD 232425 and Midas Gold to get right back to you.
I don't see what the problem is. Let's go.
Simple. All right, well, let's go. Let's jump
Let's
into
do
it.
it.
Because we always, before we can look forward at the news of the week and figure out what's going on and take things by the numbers, we have to look back in history. The year was 1971.
Mm-hmm.
President Richard Nixon was in the Oval Office.
And our country was running out of gold.
It was running out of gold.
And the Bretton Woods Agreement from 1944 was completely blowing up.
What you said.
And then what did they do?
What did they do? They decided, we'll try this experiment. And President Nixon, how did that go for you?
We're going to stop the convertibility of the U.S. dollar into gold, and we're going to start the entire fiat system. So that means free money, monopoly money, and we can spend as much as we want.
So, Mr. President, gold no longer backs the dollar?
No, nothing.
No.
Nothing. And I am not a crook.
No, you are not.
You saw
a
what
crook.
happened to JFK. He wanted to mess with the Fed, not me. No.
You heard the warning.
That's right. So that was about it. I mean, so it's the birth of the fiat experiment.
Right.
So people always ask, well, how could we have so much debt? How could we be printing so much unlimited money? Well, this is why, because our money's no longer backed by anything except debt.
And paper.
And folks, it's a debt that will blow up. It's a debt that is making the entire market and the banking system risky as all get out.
And that's where all of your money is.
And the question is how can you distance yourself from that risk, and how can you kind of escape the tear down of this whole financial system or collapse, it's one or the other, and be financially intact? And gold and silver will allow you to do that, and that's what we're here to talk about.
And you get to maintain your independence. You don't have to rely on anybody. You can access your money, your gold, your precious metals when you need it. Call Midas Gold Group if you've been thinking about it. Don't wait for more trouble. Don't wait for more spending, more devaluing of the dollar, more.
There's going to be more spending?
Every day.
There's going to be more debt? Is that what you're saying?
It's the answer to every government problem. Just
geez.
spend money. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. You can text GOLD to 232425. Midas will get right back to you. And if you don't believe that gold is really the way, I mean, our friend, light friend.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
The verdict's out. But Matt Gaetz, congressman from Florida, he was really talking about just how important gold is.
It was one of the few things out of the House of Representatives I actually heard that actually said, that actually makes sense. So why don't we hear that real quick?
The gentleman's right. You are your record. And our record in this country right now is $33 trillion in debt, facing $2 trillion annual deficits. We're in so much debt. We're driving up deficits so fast. We are devaluing American money so rapidly that in America today, you can't even bribe Democrat senators with cash alone. You need to bring gold bars to get the job done, just so that the bribes hold value.
There you have it.
I think that Matt Gaetz actually nailed that
Yeah,
one.
let's just look at that real quick.
Yeah.
Our record in this country right now is $33.5 trillion in debt, facing $2 trillion annual deficits. We are in so much debt, we're driving up deficits so fast, we are devaluing American money so rapidly that in America today, you can't even bribe Democrat senators with cash alone. And this is the part that is good. You need to bring gold bars to get the job done, just so that the bribes hold value.
Isn't that amazing?
So,
I mean, he's trying to be kind of funny there, and he's talking about
well,
Bob
he's
Menendez.
being funny, but
he's absolutely right.
Yeah, and it's a disgusting situation when it comes to our money because this is going to affect every single American. And I know that, it's this agenda, it's that agenda. Let's spend this, let's do that, let's elect this. We have power, you have power. It all makes me sick.
Mm-hmm.
But every single American should be wondering where the value of their money is going. Why is their paper money and the buying power dwindling? And is it going to get worse? And I would have to say, Jen, it's going to get a lot worse.
Well, and you've been calling on this for a while, Ken. We've been friends for a while, and we've been talking on the radio about this very topic, about inflation and about how your money is just buying less. So put it this way. If you've been thinking about gold and precious metals, many times it's like, well, people will say you don't want to put everything into the stock market because it's unreliable. But
well, why would you?
Right. But what we're talking about right now doesn't even require anything drastic. You're already seeing the inflation that's on the rise right now. You already see that your dollar has less value. Why are you going to put everything that you've worked so hard for and now you're saving into a place when it's not going to have that same power for you when you really want to
Yeah,
get a
and
hold
we're
of it?
seeing, and we'll give a little summary. We're seeing $1.2 billion in debt that the government is taking out per hour. We're seeing a deficit right now at $33.5 trillion. Do you have any idea what the deficit was in the year 2000, 23 years ago?
I have no idea.
$5.6 trillion.
And it's what now?
33.5. That's a big increase.
It's a huge increase.
So over the last 23
That's
years...
more than you make for this show.
A lot more. Not as quite as much as you make, though. So, over the last 23 years, tremendous amount of debt, not to mention the interest rate environment over the last 23 years was very low.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's happening is that the debt is spiraling out of control.
Mm-hmm.
It's going exponential because we all know now that you have to print trillions to maybe get a little bit of movement that maybe billions used to take. And the interest rates to finance all of this debt is going up dramatically, which means that it's going to cost more for the United States and all borrowers to service their debt.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at something specific, do you have any idea how much the interest costs the United States of America each year to service the debt of $33.5 trillion?
Just the interest.
Just the interest.
Lay it on me.
$900 billion, which is more than the Pentagon budget.
Wow.
What's the interest rate expense on our debt going to be when the debt goes to $40 or $50 trillion, which it is over the next, 3 to 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
And interest rates could actually go a lot higher.
Yeah.
What's the interest? This is obscene. It's outrageous. And where's the money come to even pay for the interest? We have to print that too. So we're in a hole that's so big. The question is not, do you have, enough gold?
Yeah.
The question is do you have too much of your money tied to a sick, dying system? And how do you survive this unscathed? Because this system is either going to cave in on its own, you just heard the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be intentionally torn down. Because when they started that system, Jen, in 1971, that fiat system, that's a system that is designed to be built up and then torn down.
Yep, and taken out.
That's right.
855-322-4653. If you've been hearing us, if this is the first time you've heard us, the situation really is dire. And we're just talking about the U.S. here. We haven't even talked about global debt, really by and large. Your money is in a place, if it's in the banking system, if it's in the stock market, where it could be at risk. Everything you've worked hard for at risk. 855-322-4653. Gold, precious metals, it brings you a sense of security. It hedges your bet against a failing system. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD, or now you can text. You can text GOLD to 232425. Text GOLD 232425, or you can go online to MidasGoldGroup.com.
Yeah, and they're all guilty, Jen. It started with Reagan in 80 when the deficit was only about $900 billion. Then it went to Bush, Clinton, George W., Obama, Trump, and Biden, and they all have spent. It's unlimited money printing. It's a situation that is inevitably going to end very bad for our financial system. I see no reason in the world why anyone would have all of their assets tied up or tied to a system like that, especially if it's an IRA, especially if it's an old 401k, especially if it's a lot of money at the bank. Why would you hold a lot of money at the bank if it's not for living expenses?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, it pays you nothing, it's not safe, and it could disappear. Why?
Like that.
That's
So here's what you need to do. 855-322-4653 or text GOLD 232425. And just in about 30 seconds here, and we'll come back. We're going to talk about the banks as well. But it's not just a United States problem. This is a global problem. Global debt is also out of control. So if you're thinking, well, it's just the United States, no. And this makes it even worse
Yeah, it's
and more
global.
frightening.
And what are the global central banks doing, Jen? They're all buying gold and they're
That's it.
pushing paper on their citizens. So follow the money, folks. Own tangible assets just like the whole world is doing. Our government's not, but you can create your own bank.
It gives you personal responsibility. It gives you personal access to the money when you need it. And it gives you privacy because the government doesn't have oversight over these kinds of transactions.
And it's your money.
That's right.
And they want to use our money to run their system, to run their agendas. You do not have to comply, like you said, Jen. You could be your own bank. And in my opinion, that's exactly what people should be doing right now, every single American.
Be your own bank. Take away that element of government oversight over everything. Digital currency is coming. Look into gold and precious metals. If you already have gold, maybe you need a new gold dealer. You're in the market for that. Call Midas Gold Group, 855-322-4653. That's 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD. You can text GOLD to 232425 as well. They'll get right back to you. That's GOLD to 232425, and always online, MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com. You can even stop in and see us in Phoenix or in Thousand Oaks. 855-322-GOLD. More up ahead. It's the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn. Happy to be with you today. And today's show, it's all about the numbers.
We're back to talk about the numbers.
I know. And we've got a new number for you. So if you'd like to contact Midas Gold Group, enough waiting, by the way. They are awesome. This is not a call center. You're not going to be dumped in, hard sell, hard sell. This is an opportunity for you to talk to real people about your real situation. 855-322-GOLD. That converts to 855-322-4653. Or you can text GOLD to 232425. Very easy. Text gold to 232425. Midas gets right back to you, or always online at midasgoldgroup.com. Now, it seems that not only are we spending too much, but the banks are in trouble, Ken.
Yeah, and whatever cost $1 in 1971 now costs $7.50. How about that? How are those numbers for you?
I was talking to someone in real estate this last week. You think about in the 70s, and it's a funny meme. Like you could buy a house for $13 and a bag of pistachios. Now you're buying a house for what? If we're in California where you and I do the show, I mean,
$1 to $2
minimum
million?
$1 million.
Yeah.
You don't think inflation's real? Just let that one sink in on you. In just a few years, in 40 years, basically.
Yeah, and we'll play a little
Huge.
game, too, one of these weeks, and figure out if you bought your house in the 70s, and divide that by the price of gold, and you see how many ounces it would have taken you to buy that house, and then see the value of your house today, and divide it also by today's price of gold, and see how many ounces of gold it would still take to buy your house today.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you that it held its purchasing power.
That's interesting. Let's do that one day.
We'll do that one day.
Let's talk about the banks.
My favorite.
You love them.
I do. Now, these are institutions that are supposed to be keeping our money safe.
Right.
These are institutions that are supposed to be trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
These are institutions that our life savings and, our living expense money is being guarded by. They're in big trouble. We saw some of these banks fail in March because a lot of these banks are sitting on billions of dollars of unrealized losses.
Right.
And a lot of these banks are being killed by higher interest rates on their bonds. They were all convinced by, the government to buy treasury bonds 2 or 3 years ago when the interest rates were near zero. So underwater big time on those. Not to mention a lot of these banks and a lot of the regional banks own a lot of commercial real estate, some of these business towers. And we all know that in some of these major cities, they're half full. The money that we expect to be there, folks, it's a fractional banking system. It's not there. And now you have some numbers that came out recently. Bank of America is sitting on $131 billion of unrealized losses. Okay?
Repeat that number. That is a huge number.
Bank of America, one bank.
Yeah.
And we know that there's 4,500 banks, right?
Mm-hmm.
One bank is sitting on $131 billion of unrealized losses. In 2008, Jen, do you have any idea how many billions of dollars it took to bail out all of the banks during the subprime mortgage
2000,
crisis?
I don't remember.
$800 billion.
Wow.
How many trillions would it take today when the banks go under? It's going to be
more than we can count.
Yeah.
How much? Do we know?
I would say 5 to 10 trillion minimum.
Wow.
I would say. Now that's just a guess, but when you talk about Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, Wells Fargo, those are the four biggest banks. They have $4 trillion of uninsured deposits.
Okay.
They said out of all the banks, there's $7 trillion that's uninsured. Well, right there, that's $11 trillion. Okay, so if the banks went down, it's going to cost at least $11 trillion that they'll have to print out of thin air. When that happens, what's going to happen to the value of our money? You remember those old pictures where they put the cash in the wheelbarrows?
Right.
And okay? So that's basically what's going to happen. So now, let's make this even more of a wild web of just craziness and outrageousness. They allow these banks to also have derivatives. Now, these derivatives are these financial paper contracts that the banks trade back with one another. It's an unregulated, over-the-counter derivative market. These banks control over $200 trillion of derivatives.
Okay.
And that's only in the top 6 banks. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo control $208 trillion of derivatives. Wow. JP Morgan Chase has almost $60 trillion in derivatives itself. What about all the hedge funds? What about all the global banks? There are quadrillions of dollars worth of these landmines that they call financial derivatives that are out there that are unregulated, that ultimately are going to blow up. It's
And then what?
inevitable.
And then what happens?
We could literally wake up one morning and like some of these people in other countries have woken up and their money and everything is gone. We could literally be in a situation like that between the money that's not insured, the risk in the markets, the money that these banks are down, the leverage. It's a huge, huge mess. And with everything else going on economically, politically, financially, socially, there's a lot of chaos. You would have to be insane to keep all of your money wrapped up in a sick system like this. And that's what we're offering people.
Right.
We're offering them the ability to distance themselves from these inevitable problems. It's only a matter of time,
To
folks.
survive.
To financially survive so that you could get out of this unscathed. We all know that the market's going to collapse. We all know that the stock market eventually and the bond market's a big bubble. It's going to blow up. Who knows when? You have to make those decisions now. The writing's on the wall, like we're talking about. It's all in the numbers. Gold is a way for you to survive. It's your financial lifeboat. Silver, too. It always has been. It always will be.
And that's the thing, for decades and decades
Not
and
to
decades.
mention, the price of gold went up almost $200 in the last 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
It's starting to forecast what's going on. A breakout is inevitable. Much higher prices in gold are right around the corner.
Well, especially when you see governments. I mean, look and pay attention to what other governments are doing. If they're looking for gold, that tells you a whole lot. They're moving away from the dollar. The writing's on the wall, as you said, Ken.
That's right.
And so if you've been listening to this and if you've been hearing this and you go, yeah, it's really chaotic, but maybe I don't have enough money. You might. You never know what your situation is. If you have an old IRA or 401k, put it to work for you.
Sometimes people have annuities. They don't even
That's
realize
right.
that it's money. Sometimes they have an old 401k sitting somewhere, and it's all in mutual funds. It's all in bonds. It's all in paper. It's all in money markets. And quite frankly, folks, it's all tied to a sick banking system. You don't have to be in that situation. We could offer you some solutions, and I would encourage people to make that call today.
All right, so here's where you go to call. Ready? 855-322-4653. That's the number for Midas Gold Group. These are America First Patriots. They are veteran-owned. This is not a call center. It's not a high-pressure situation. Talk about what you are going through financially right now and come up with a plan that's best for you. 855-322-4653. 855-322-GOLD. You can also text, if that's more your preference, text GOLD to 232425. That's GOLD to 232425. Or you can check the website, MidasGoldGroup.com. We mentioned it. There are also 2 locations if you're in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, and if you're in California, Thousand Oaks, California, if you want to come in and do your business face-to-face, which many of the listeners of this show like to do. 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD.
Yeah, and don't let your busy schedule get in the way of protecting your money. Why are you working so hard if you're not going to protect it? You can call. We do business in all 50 states. We probably ship hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gold and silver every day. It's a safe process. We'll walk you through a transaction. Every step of the way, we'll hold your hand. But I would make that call today, folks. And if we're not available, leave a message. We'll call you back, and you can speak to a trader. We're not a call center.
A trader, not a trader.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, an actual trader. And
no traders around here.
And we would love an opportunity to earn your business. But like I said, regardless of who you do business with, every single American right now should be diversifying. Every single American should hold and control a portion of their wealth. And one of the easiest, most liquid ways to do that is with physical gold and silver. And that's the only way to own gold and silver, in physical, tangible form.
Protect the value of what you've worked for, what you're working hard to save. It's not easy. It's a hard thing to earn money and then to put it away and save it.
And a lot of people don't
let it go
and
out
a lot
in
of
thin air.
people, it's hard for me to even say that the banks have already, they're just slow walking. The banks have already collapsed.
Absolutely.
It's hard to say that. It's hard for a lot of people to hear that. But you have to make a tough decision. But I do believe, though, that this is one of the most important decisions financially that people could make for the next 5 or 10 years.
It's not that hard when you look at what's going on. That's for sure. 855-322-4653. That's the number to call for Midas Gold Group. 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-4653. Or text GOLD to 232425. Just text the word GOLD, 232425, and always at MidasGoldGroup.com. That's MidasGoldGroup.com. One more time, 855-322-GOLD. Thanks so much for joining us. It's the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.